Dr. Lisa Morgan stared at the data screen aboard the deep space research vessel Endeavour and felt her blood run cold. The cosmic radiation patterns made no sense at all. She had been studying space energy for 15 years, but nothing in her training prepared her for what she was seeing now. The numbers showed gaps where there should be matter and energy signatures that simply ended in the middle of nowhere. Commander Jake Sullivan walked into the lab carrying his morning coffee and noticed her worried expression. He was a practical man who had spent 20 years in space and trusted hard facts more than wild theories. Lisa had called him 3 times already this week about strange readings, but each time he found simple explanations for her concerns. "Let me guess," Jake said with a tired smile. "More ghost signals from the outer rim." Lisa turned her screen toward him and pointed at the display. "Look at Sector 7, Jake. 3 days ago, we had full readings from the mining station there. Yesterday, we had partial readings. Today we have nothing at all." Jake studied the data and frowned. Mining stations did not just vanish without sending distress calls or leaving debris fields. He had seen equipment failures before, but this looked different. The readings did not show destruction or explosion. They showed absence, as if nothing had ever been there in the first place. "Run the scan again," he ordered. Lisa worked her controls and ran a deep space scan of Sector 7. The results came back identical to before. Empty space where a bustling mining operation should be working. No metal fragments, no emergency beacons, no trace of the 300 people who lived and worked there. Back on Earth, Director Alan Pierce sat in his office at the Global Defense Initiative headquarters, reviewing communication logs from the outer colonies. He was a careful man who had built his career on attention to detail, and right now those details were painting a very disturbing picture. 17 colonies had gone silent in the past month, not destroyed or attacked, but simply silent. Pierce called up the file on New Geneva Colony. 2 million people lived there in one of humanity's most successful settlements. The colony had been sending regular reports every day for 8 years. Then 4 days ago, the reports stopped. No final transmission, no emergency signal, just silence. He opened a secure channel to Fleet Command and requested an immediate investigation. Something was happening out there in the dark between the stars, and Pierce had a growing fear that it was something humanity had never faced before. Marine Captain Roy Henderson received his orders while his unit was conducting training exercises on Mars. He was to take his reconnaissance team to New Geneva and find out why the colony had gone silent. Roy was known for his steady nerves and ability to handle unexpected situations, but as he read the mission briefing, he felt a chill run down his spine. The briefing mentioned 16 other colonies that had gone silent in recent weeks. All of them had stopped communicating on the same day. All of them had been thriving settlements with no reported problems. All of them had simply vanished from long-range sensors. Roy assembled his team, including his science officer, Dr. Kate Williams, who specialized in energy analysis and temporal mechanics. Kate was brilliant, but she had a habit of seeing patterns where others saw random events. Roy hoped her skills would help them understand what happened to New Geneva. The journey to New Geneva took 6 days. Roy spent the time studying every report about the missing colonies and trying to find connections. The colonies were spread across different star systems, with no obvious links between them. They had different governments, different economies, and different defensive systems, yet they had all vanished in the same mysterious way. When Roy's ship arrived at the New Geneva system, he immediately knew something was terribly wrong. Long-range sensors showed no signs of the massive orbital stations that should be surrounding the colony world. No cargo ships moved between the planets. No communication signals filled the usual frequencies. "Captain," Dr. Williams called from her station, "I'm reading the star and the planets, but nothing else. No artificial structures, no energy signatures, no signs of human presence at all." Roy ordered a closer scan of the colony world itself. What they found made no sense. The planet was there exactly where it should be, but the cities were gone. The spaceports were gone. The mining complexes were gone. Even the orbital elevators that connected the surface to space had vanished completely. "This is impossible," Roy said, staring at the readings. 2 million people don't just disappear, Doctor. Williams worked frantically at her instruments trying to find any trace of what had happened. After an hour of scanning, she found something that made her gasp in shock. There were faint energy readings in the space around the planet, readings that suggested something had removed matter not by destroying it, but by erasing it from existence. Entirely. "Captain," she said with a shaking voice, "I think something deleted the colony." Before Roy could ask what she meant, every screen in the ship suddenly displayed the same image. An alien face looked back at them with cold, calculating eyes. The creature spoke in perfect English, but its voice carried no emotion at all. "Humans," the alien said, "you are witnessing the correction of a cosmic error. Your species represents chaos and unpredictability that threatens galactic stability. We are the Zephyrian Collective, and we have been tasked with erasing your kind from existence." Roy reached for his weapons, but the alien continued speaking. "We do not conquer or enslave. We simply remove problems from reality itself. Your colonies have not been destroyed. They have been made to never exist. Soon your homeworld will follow and the galaxy will return to proper order." The transmission ended, leaving Roy and his crew staring at blank screens. Dr. Williams checked her instruments and confirmed what they all feared. Massive energy signatures were moving through deep space toward Earth. The aliens had fleets of ships armed with weapons that could erase matter from existence itself. Roy immediately sent a priority message to Earth warning of the threat, but he knew it might already be too late. The Zephyrians had been systematically removing human colonies from existence, and Earth was next on their list. As his ship raced back toward home, Roy wondered how humanity could fight an enemy that could simply delete them from reality. How do you battle something that doesn't just kill you but makes it so you never existed at all? The answer to that question would determine whether the human race survived the next 6 months. Fleet Admiral Grace Thompson stood in the war room beneath Geneva, watching as red markers appeared on the tactical display. Each marker represented a Zephyrian fleet moving toward human space, and there were more of them than anyone had imagined possible. She had spent 30 years preparing for alien contact, but never for an enemy that wanted to erase humanity from existence itself. "How long do we have?" she asked her intelligence chief. "Based on their current speed, 6 months until they reach the outer systems and 8 months until they get to Earth," came the reply. Grace nodded grimly. 8 months to prepare for a war against an enemy that could delete entire worlds from reality. She had seen the reports from Captain Henderson's reconnaissance mission, and the evidence was clear. Conventional weapons would be useless against technology that could simply erase anything humanity threw at them. Dr. Marcus Webb entered the war room carrying a stack of theoretical physics papers and looking like he had not slept in days. He was one of Earth's leading experts on quantum mechanics and space-time manipulation. Grace hoped he might have some answers to their impossible situation. Admiral Marcus said, "I've been studying the energy readings from the deleted colonies, and I think I understand how their erasure weapons work. They don't destroy matter. They remove it from the quantum field that holds reality together." Grace listened as Marcus explained his theory. The Zephyrians had learned to manipulate the basic forces that kept the universe stable. Their void engines could reach into the quantum level and simply delete the information that told reality a thing existed. "Is there a way to defend against?" Grace asked. Marcus hesitated before answering. "Maybe. If we could anchor human consciousness in multiple quantum states, we might survive even if our physical bodies are erased. The problem is we would need massive amounts of energy and technology we don't currently possess." Grace authorized unlimited resources for Marcus's research, while she turned her attention to more immediate problems. Earth's military forces were scattered across dozens of star systems, and most of them were designed to fight conventional enemies. She needed to gather every ship and every weapon humanity possessed. Special Forces. Colonel Danny Roberts received his orders while his unit was training in the asteroid belt. He was to take his best operatives and gather intelligence on Zephyrian technology by any means necessary. Danny had spent 15 years fighting in the shadows, and he knew this mission was probably impossible, but he also knew it was humanity's only chance. Danny assembled a team of 12 specialists, including demolitions expert Sergeant Paul Martinez, and cyber warfare expert Lieutenant Amy Foster. They were the best at what they did, but even they had never attempted to infiltrate alien technology that existed partially outside normal reality. The first major engagement came sooner than expected, when Zephyrian scout ships appeared near Jupiter. Captain Nicole Hayes commanded the battleship Defiance and found herself facing enemies that seemed to phase in and out of existence at will. Her weapons passed through the alien ships as if they were ghosts. All ships concentrate fire on the lead vessel, Nicole ordered, even though she knew it was probably hopeless. The human fleet opened fire with every weapon they had, but the energy beams and missiles simply passed through the Zephyrian ships without effect. The aliens were existing in a different quantum state that made them immune to conventional attack. Then, one of the Zephyrian ships fired back. A beam of absolute darkness struck the cruiser Phoenix, and the ship simply vanished. No explosion, no debris, no final transmission. One moment it was there, and the next moment it had never existed at all. Nicole realized she was watching 300 crew members being erased from reality. Their families would never remember them because they had been deleted from history itself. The thought filled her with a rage she had never experienced before. All ships' random evasion patterns, she commanded, make them work for every shot. The human ships scattered in all directions, abandoning formation and tactical doctrine. They flew in chaotic patterns that no computer could predict, weaving between the Zephyrian vessels like angry wasps. It was not a winning strategy, but it was keeping them alive longer than expected. Dr. Webb watched the battle from Earth and noticed something important. When the human ships acted unpredictably, the Zephyrian weapons seemed less accurate. Their targeting systems appeared to be designed for opponents who followed logical patterns, and the chaotic human tactics were causing problems. "Admiral," he called to Grace, "I think their technology depends on being able to predict what we're going to do. Chaos might be our only advantage." Grace immediately sent new orders to all fleet commanders. Abandon standard tactics, abandon logical strategy, and fight like wild animals. It went against everything she had been taught about military command, but it was the only thing that seemed to work. Colonel Roberts and his team used the confusion of the Jupiter battle to approach a damaged Zephyrian scout ship. They had modified their equipment with some of Marcus Webb's early quantum anchor prototypes and hoped it would let them board the alien vessel. The infiltration was the most dangerous operation any of them had ever attempted. The Zephyrian ship existed in multiple quantum states, simultaneously making it difficult to even touch. But Amy Foster managed to hack into their computer systems using programs that operated on pure randomness rather than logic. "I'm in," she reported, "but their data storage is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's like they store information in the structure of reality itself." Roberts ordered his team to plant quantum beacon transmitters throughout the alien ship. If Marcus Webb was right, the beacons might let human scientists study Zephyrian technology without being erased. Meanwhile, Marcus was making breakthrough discoveries in his laboratory. The quantum anchor technology was working better than expected. Test subjects who were partially erased by simulated void engine attacks remained conscious, even when their bodies were deleted from reality. Admiral Marcus reported, "I think we can do more than just survive erasure. Humans in quantum states might be able to manipulate probability itself. We could become something the Zephyrians have never encountered before." Grace listened to his explanation with growing excitement. If humans could exist in multiple quantum states, they would no longer be bound by the normal rules of physics. They could potentially turn their own erasure into a weapon against their enemies. The Jupiter battle ended with most of the human fleet destroyed, but the Zephyrian scouts had also been damaged by the chaotic tactics. More importantly, the aliens seemed confused and frustrated by human unpredictability. Grace made a decision that would change the course of the war. She ordered immediate deployment of quantum anchor stations around Earth and every remaining human colony. If the Zephyrians wanted to erase humanity, they would discover that humans could exist in ways they never imagined. The real war was about to begin, and humanity would fight it with the one weapon the Zephyrians could not understand or counter: the beautiful chaos of human determination. Dr. Marcus Webb stood before the massive quantum anchor array that now surrounded Earth like a glowing web of energy. 6 months of desperate work had produced the most advanced technology humanity had ever created. The anchors could, theoretically, keep human consciousness stable even if their physical bodies were erased from existence. The theory was about to be tested in the most extreme way possible. Admiral Grace Thompson watched from the underground command center as Zephyrian fleets approached the solar system. There were thousands of alien ships all armed with void engines capable of deleting entire worlds. Humanity's conventional forces had been reduced to a handful of vessels, but Grace was no longer counting on traditional warfare to save her species. Colonel Danny Roberts floated in the modified stealth ship Phantom, preparing for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. His team had been equipped with portable quantum anchors that should allow them to survive inside a Zephyrian vessel, even if their bodies were erased. The plan was to infiltrate the enemy flagship and plant anchor devices directly into their command systems. Remember, Roberts told his team over the comm system, "Once we're inside that ship, we might not exist in any normal sense anymore. Stay focused on the mission and don't think too hard about what's happening to your body." Sergeant Paul Martinez checked his demolition charges one last time. Each explosive was wrapped in quantum field generators that would hopefully make them impossible for the Zephyrians to simply delete. Lieutenant Amy Foster ran final diagnostics on her cyber warfare equipment while trying not to think about what it would feel like to have her consciousness scattered across multiple dimensions. The Zephyrian fleet reached Earth's outer defenses and immediately began firing their void engines at the remaining human ships. Captain Nicole Hayes watched from the Bridge of Defiance as entire vessels simply vanished from existence. But something strange happened when the erasure beams struck. Ships equipped with quantum anchors. Instead of disappearing completely, the ships became ghostly and translucent. They existed in a state between reality and void that the Zephyrians had never encountered before. The partially erased vessels could still fight, but their weapons now fired something that looked like concentrated starlight. "All ships engage. The enemy." Nicole ordered, even though she was no longer sure what her ship had become. The battle that followed defied every law of physics that humanity had ever discovered. Ships that should have been erased continued fighting as quantum ghosts. Weapons that should have been impossible tore holes in the fabric of space itself. Human crews found themselves existing in multiple realities simultaneously, and somehow that made them stronger rather than weaker. Dr. Lisa Morgan worked frantically in the quantum anchor control room, trying to understand what was happening to the human forces. The anchor network was supposed to preserve consciousness, but it was doing much more than that. Humans in quantum states were developing abilities that bordered on supernatural. "Admiral," she called to Grace, "the partially erased crews are reporting that they can feel the enemy's intentions before they act. Some of them claim they can appear in multiple locations at once." Grace studied the battle reports with amazement. Human forces that should have been completely outmatched were holding their own against superior alien technology. The Zephyrians seemed increasingly frustrated as their perfect battle plans fell apart in the face of quantum-enhanced human chaos. Supreme Overseer Vex Cathara commanded the Zephyrian fleet from his massive flagship and found himself facing an enemy that made no sense. The humans should have been erased easily, but instead they were becoming something his species had never encountered. Their chaotic nature was being amplified by their quantum state into a force that his orderly mind could not comprehend. Colonel Roberts and his team managed to breach the hull of the Zephyrian flagship just as the quantum anchors around Earth began to fail under the massive erasure assault. Half of Earth's population simply vanished, but the quantum network kept their consciousness active in a state between existence and void. The infiltration team found themselves inside an alien ship that existed in 17 different dimensions, simultaneously. Roberts could see his team members as ghostly figures existing in multiple quantum states at once. They were no longer entirely human, but they were still driven by human determination. "Plant the charges everywhere," Roberts ordered, even though his voice seemed to come from several directions at once. Paul Martinez discovered that in his quantum state he could move through solid matter and exist in multiple locations simultaneously. He planted quantum anchor devices throughout the alien ship, while existing as both matter and energy. Amy Foster found that her consciousness could interface directly with the Zephyrian computer systems by thinking in pure chaos rather than logic. Back on Earth, Dr. Marcus Webb realized that the quantum anchor network was evolving beyond his original design. The partially erased humans were not just surviving, they were learning to manipulate reality itself through sheer force of will. Their emotions were becoming a literal force that could warp space and time. Commander Jake Sullivan had been partially erased during the initial assault on Earth, but his consciousness survived in quantum state. He found himself commanding Ghost, ships crewed by partially erased humans who could fight in ways that defied physics. When he ordered an attack, the weapons fired concentrated human fury that tore holes in alien reality armor. The Zephyrians tried to counter the human quantum assault by increasing the power of their void engines. But this only made the situation worse. The more they tried to erase humanity, the more chaotic and powerful the quantum humans became. Their orderly technology could not process the beautiful randomness of human survival instinct. Dr. Kate Williams had been studying temporal mechanics when the erasure wave hit her research station. Instead of dying, she found herself scattered across multiple timelines simultaneously. She could see past and future events overlapping with the present, and realized that the quantum humans were not bound by normal causality. "Admiral," she reported, "from her impossible existence I can see what the Zephyrians are really afraid of. We're not just fighting them in the present. Our quantum state is affecting their past and future simultaneously." Grace felt her own body beginning to fade as the void engine assault intensified, but her mind remained clear and focused. The quantum anchors were keeping human consciousness active even as physical reality was being systematically deleted. Humanity was becoming something that existed beyond the normal boundaries of space and time. The battle reached a critical point when Paul Martinez successfully planted quantum anchors in the Zephyrian flagship's core systems. The alien ship began to phase in and out of existence as human chaos infected their orderly technology. Supreme Overseer Vex Cathara found his perfect fleet beginning to malfunction in completely random ways. As the quantum field spread throughout the Zephyrian fleet, their ships began to exist in multiple contradictory states simultaneously. Weapons fired backwards in time. Navigation systems plotted courses through parallel dimensions, and crew members found themselves scattered across probability space. The Zephyrians had tried to erase humanity, but instead they had freed human potential from the constraints of physical reality. The next phase of the war would be fought by beings who existed as pure determined consciousness, backed by the unlimited power of quantum fury. Commander Jake Sullivan existed in 17 different quantum states simultaneously, and discovered that each version of himself was angrier than the last. The Zephyrians had partially erased his physical body, but somehow that had only concentrated his fury into something that could reshape reality itself. He commanded ghost fleets that could appear anywhere in space, and his weapons fired pure human determination that tore holes in alien technology. Dr. Marcus Webb found himself scattered across multiple dimensions, but his brilliant mind was still working to understand what humanity had become. The quantum anchor network had evolved far beyond his original design, and was now tapping into something he called the collective human rage field. Every person who had ever lived had left quantum echoes throughout history, and those echoes were waking up. Captain Roy Henderson materialized on the bridge of a ship that existed in 12 different realities at once. He had been declared dead when the first void engine struck his reconnaissance vessel, but death was apparently just another limitation that quantum humans could overcome. His marine unit now consisted of soldiers who could walk through walls and fire weapons that shot concentrated memories of human courage. "All units advance," Henderson commanded, and his voice carried across dimensions to reach warriors who existed as living fury. The Zephyrian fleet found itself under attack by enemies that should not exist. Ships that had been erased from reality returned as quantum ghosts crewed by humans who had transcended physical limitations. The aliens' perfect battle formations collapsed into chaos as human forces appeared and disappeared at will. Supreme Overseer Vex Cathara watched his orderly fleet fall apart under assault by creatures his species had never imagined. The humans were using their emotions as weapons and their unpredictable nature as armor that his technology could not penetrate. Every attempt to erase them only made them stronger and more chaotic. Dr. Kate Williams discovered that her consciousness could access quantum echoes from throughout human history. She reached back through time and found warriors who had faced impossible odds with nothing but determination and fury. These historical echoes began to manifest as quantum constructs that could fight alongside the modern resistance. George Washington appeared leading battalions of revolutionary soldiers who existed as pure patriotic rage. Joan of Arc commanded cavalry charges that rode across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Spartans from ancient battles held defensive lines that existed in 17 different realities at once. Each historical warrior brought their own brand of human fury to the quantum battlefield. Admiral Grace Thompson coordinated the multidimensional assault from a command center that existed everywhere and nowhere at once. She had been partially erased, but her strategic mind was now enhanced by quantum consciousness that could process impossible amounts of information simultaneously. Her battle plans operated on pure inspired chaos that the Zephyrian computers could not predict. Colonel Danny Roberts and his infiltration team had successfully infected the enemy flagship with quantum anchor technology. The alien ship was now, caught between multiple quantum states, and its crew was experiencing what Roberts cheerfully described as weaponized human insanity. Zephyrian technology that depended on perfect order was breaking down under assault by pure concentrated randomness. Sergeant Paul Martinez discovered that his demolition charges could now explode backwards through time and create blast effects that existed in the past, present, and future simultaneously. He was having the time of his life blowing up alien ships that tried to exist in orderly dimensions. Lieutenant Amy Foster found that she could hack alien computers by thinking in pure emotional chaos rather than logical code. Dr. Lisa Morgan realized that the quantum field was allowing humans to weaponize their creativity itself. Earth's artists, writers, and musicians were reshaping local reality through pure imagination. Painters created landscapes that became actual battlefields. Musicians composed songs that summoned impossible weapons from the quantum field. Writers told stories that became reality and trapped alien fleets in narratives they could not escape. Captain Nicole Hayes charged her ghostly battleship Defiance directly into the heart of the Zephyrian formation while broadcasting human rock music at frequencies that existed across multiple dimensions. The psychological assault of chaotic human art, combined with quantum-enhanced fury, proved more devastating than any conventional weapon. The Zephyrian command structure began to crack under the pressure of fighting an enemy that operated on principles their minds could not process. Their perfect order was being corrupted by human chaos that spread through their fleet like a virus. Ships began firing at random targets. Navigation systems plotted impossible courses, and crew members found themselves thinking in ways that violated every law of Zephyrian logic. Supreme Overseer Vex Cathara attempted to restore order by increasing the power of his void engines, but this only accelerated the spread of quantum human fury. The more reality the Zephyrians deleted, the more creative humans became in existing outside normal space-time. They were literally angry enough to transcend the laws of physics. Commander Sullivan led an assault force that existed as pure concentrated rage and discovered that Zephyrian reality armor could not protect against emotions that had been weaponized by quantum consciousness. His ghost Marines could walk through alien defenses and attack the enemy's will to fight directly. Many Zephyrian soldiers simply gave up when faced with the unlimited fury of beings who refused to accept deletion. Dr. Webb's research revealed that humanity had always possessed the potential for quantum consciousness, but it had been locked away by the limitations of physical existence. The Zephyrian erasure attacks had accidentally freed human potential from those constraints. Now every human who had ever lived could contribute their fury to the war effort across multiple dimensions. The tide of battle turned completely when Captain Henderson led a charge of quantum marines directly into the Zephyrian flagship. His soldiers existed as living weapons forged from human determination, and they tore through alien technology that had never been designed to face enemies who could reshape reality through sheer willpower. For everyone they tried to erase, Henderson shouted as his Marines advanced through 17 dimensions simultaneously. The Zephyrian fleet began a desperate retreat, but discovered that quantum humans could pursue them across any distance and through any dimension. There was no escape from enemies who existed everywhere and nowhere at once. The aliens who had tried to delete humanity from existence now faced the full fury of a species that had learned to exist beyond the boundaries of reality itself. Supreme Overseer Vex Cathara realized that his perfect plan had created the very chaos he had tried to prevent. By attempting to erase humanity, he had unleashed something far more dangerous than any conventional enemy. The humans had become living embodiments of the unpredictable fury that terrified every ordered mind in the galaxy. The final phase of the war was about to begin, and it would be fought by beings who had transcended every limitation the universe could impose upon them. Colonel Danny Roberts existed as pure concentrated fury and led his infiltration team on an assault that transcended normal concepts of space and time. They were no longer merely human, but had become living weapons forged from determination and rage. Their target was not just the Zephyrian flagship, but the very concept of the Zephyrian Empire itself. Roberts intended to use their own void engine technology to erase their entire civilization from existence. Admiral Grace Thompson coordinated the final battle from a quantum command center that existed in every dimension simultaneously. Her consciousness had evolved beyond physical limitations, and she could now see every possible outcome of the war playing out across infinite realities. In most timelines, humanity won through sheer furious determination, but she wanted total victory in all dimensions. Dr. Marcus Webb discovered that the quantum anchor network had become something far beyond his original design. It was now tapping into the collective fury of every human who had ever lived or ever could live. The network connected past, present, and future into a single weapon of unlimited creative rage that could reshape reality according to human will. Supreme Overseer Vex Cathara found his perfect fleet falling apart under assault by enemies that operated on principles his species could not understand. The humans had become something that existed beyond the normal rules of physics, and their fury was literally rewriting the laws that governed reality. His orderly technology was being corrupted by chaos that spread like a virus through his ships. Commander Jake Sullivan led quantum ghost fleets in attacks that occurred across 17 different timelines simultaneously. His partially erased consciousness could exist anywhere and everywhere at once, making him impossible to target or counter. When he ordered an assault, his weapons fired concentrated human determination that deleted alien concepts like surrender or retreat from their minds. The Zephyrians attempted their final desperate gambit and began charging massive void engines that could erase entire galactic clusters from existence. If they could not defeat humanity, they would delete this entire section of the universe and start over somewhere else. But Dr. Lisa Morgan and her team had prepared for exactly this possibility. Initiate quantum echo reversal, Morgan commanded. From her control station that existed in multiple dimensions, the quantum anchor network began reversing every erasure the Zephyrians had ever performed throughout their long history. Human colonies that had been deleted from existence started reappearing across the galaxy, but they returned changed. Having existed in quantum states, they came back as living weapons enhanced by fury and determination that could not be contained by physical reality. Captain Roy Henderson materialized on planets that had been erased decades ago and found human settlements populated by quantum-enhanced colonists who had spent years existing as pure, concentrated rage. These returning humans had transcended every limitation the universe could impose, and they were eager to repay the Zephyrians for trying to delete their existence. Dr. Kate Williams used her ability to access historical quantum echoes to summon every human warrior who had ever fought against impossible odds. The quantum battlefield filled with soldiers from throughout history, all existing simultaneously, and all driven by the same furious determination to protect what they loved from those who would destroy it. Spartans fought alongside Space Marines, while Revolutionary War soldiers charged next to quantum physicists who wielded weaponized mathematics. Viking berserkers led assaults on alien ships, while Apache warriors appeared and disappeared like ghosts across multiple dimensions. The combined fury of human history focused into a single unstoppable force. Supreme Overseer Vex Cathara finally understood what his species had unleashed by trying to erase humanity. They had not created chaos, but had revealed that human chaos was actually a form of order beyond their comprehension. It was the order of infinite possibility backed by unlimited fury and determination. Captain Nicole Hayes piloted her quantum battleship through the heart of the Zephyrian fleet while broadcasting human music that existed in frequencies spanning multiple realities. Her ship had become a weapon of pure cultural assault that attacked alien minds with the beautiful chaos of human creativity. The psychological damage was more devastating than any conventional weapon. Colonel Roberts and his team reached the core of the Zephyrian flagship and found technology that could manipulate the basic structure of reality itself. But instead of destroying it, they began reprogramming it using human logic that operated on principles of creative chaos, rather than sterile order. Time to give them a taste of human justice, Roberts said as he began the process that would turn their own erasure technology against them. The Zephyrian void engines that had been designed to delete matter from existence were now being corrupted by quantum human consciousness. Instead of erasing things from reality, they began creating impossible things that should not exist but did, because humans believed they should. Sergeant Paul Martinez discovered that he could make explosions that occurred in the past and created blast effects that prevented the Zephyrian Empire from ever rising to power in the first place. Lieutenant Amy Foster hacked their historical databases and began rewriting their entire civilization to make them a peaceful species that had never developed erasure technology. The quantum reversal process reached its climax when every human who had ever been erased suddenly returned to existence simultaneously. Billions of quantum-enhanced humans appeared throughout the galaxy, all existing in multiple dimensions, and all driven by fury at having been deleted from reality. The Zephyrian Empire found itself facing an infinite army of beings who could not be stopped by any conventional means. Supreme Overseer Vex Kthara faced Admiral Thompson in a confrontation that took place across 17 dimensions simultaneously. The alien leader finally realized that humanity's apparent chaos was actually their greatest strength. Their unpredictable nature allowed them to find solutions that ordered minds could never imagine. "Your species tried to delete us from existence," Thompson said with a voice that echoed across multiple realities, "but you only taught us that existence was just another limitation to overcome." The final reversal began when Dr. Webb activated the complete quantum echo network. Every human who had ever lived or ever could live existed simultaneously across quantum space. The collective fury of the entire species focused into a single force that began rewriting the history of the galaxy itself. The Zephyrian Empire did not just fall, but was retroactively prevented from ever having existed. Their perfect order was replaced by the beautiful chaos of infinite human possibility. Worlds that had been erased were restored and enhanced, while new colonies appeared in dimensions that had never been explored before. Commander Sullivan stood on a rebuilt Earth that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously and watched children play in parks that spanned multiple realities. The quantum humans had learned to exist beyond every limitation the universe could impose while still remaining fundamentally human in their capacity for love, fury, and determination. The galaxy was no longer ruled by sterile order, but by the creative chaos of beings who refused to accept that anything was impossible. Humanity had not just survived erasure, but had used it to transcend every boundary that had ever contained them. In the end, the Zephyrians had wanted to delete humanity from existence, but instead they taught the human race that existence itself was just another challenge to overcome through fury, determination, and the unlimited power of refusing to give up.